Dr. Elena Rodriguez had always known that NASA kept secrets, but she never imagined she would become the guardian of the most explosive secret in the agency's history. As the newly appointed director of the Mars Archive project in 2024, her job was supposed to be routine, digitizing decades of Mars exploration data for public release. What she discovered in a forgotten vault beneath the Jet Propulsion Laboratory would change everything humanity thought it knew about our neighboring planet. The vault had been sealed since 1987, requiring 3 different security clearances to access. Inside, Rodriguez found thousands of photographs, spectral analyses, and mission reports from a program that officially never existed. The documentation bore the stamp of Project Red Dawn, a classified Mars observation mission that had operated parallel to public NASA programs throughout the 1980s. According to the files, Red Dawn had used advanced classified satellites and deep space telescopes to monitor Mars with resolution capabilities decades ahead of publicly acknowledged technology. The mission had been funded through black budget programs and operated by a joint team of NASA scientists, military intelligence officers, and personnel from an organization simply called the Group. The mission's primary objective had been to search for signs of current or recent life on Mars, using spectroscopic analysis to detect atmospheric changes that might indicate biological activity. What they found in 1986 exceeded their wildest expectations and terrified them so much that the entire program was immediately shut down and classified at the highest levels of government. Rodriguez spent her first week reading through mission reports that detailed discoveries of atmospheric anomalies, surface changes, and energy signatures that could only be explained by the presence of active, intelligent life on Mars. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable, yet it had been hidden from the world for nearly 4 decades. The final report, dated December 15, 1986, contained a single line that made Rodriguez's blood run cold. Recommend immediate termination of all Mars observation programs. The entities are aware of our surveillance and have begun taking countermeasures. The breakthrough discovery had come on November 3, 1986, during a routine observation session by the Red Dawn team. Dr. Michael Hartley, the mission's lead scientist, was analyzing spectroscopic data from Mars when he noticed atmospheric disturbances in the planet's northern hemisphere that defied all known meteorological models. The disturbances appeared to be artificial in nature, geometric patterns of gas emissions that suggested controlled atmospheric manipulation. The patterns were too complex and purposeful to be natural phenomena, indicating some form of technology capable of large-scale environmental modification. Within hours of the discovery, additional monitoring stations around the world began detecting complementary evidence. Radio telescopes picked up structured electromagnetic emissions from Mars at frequencies that suggested artificial origin. Infrared satellites detected heat signatures that appeared to be moving structures on the planet's surface. The Red Dawn team worked around the clock for the next 2 weeks, documenting evidence that Mars was not the dead planet that the public believed it to be. Their observations revealed a world with active atmospheric modification, structured electromagnetic communications, and what appeared to be mobile installations across multiple regions of the planet. Most shocking was the discovery of what mission scientists termed response patterns. When Earth-based telescopes focused on specific regions of Mars, the activity in those areas would change within hours. The inhabitants of Mars were not only aware of Earth's surveillance, but were actively responding to it. Dr. Hartley's final report before the mission's termination documented his team's conclusion that Mars hosted an advanced civilization with technology superior to Earth's. The beings on Mars possessed atmospheric engineering capabilities, advanced communication systems, and appeared to have detailed knowledge of Earth's technological capabilities. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not alone in the solar system, and their nearest neighbors possessed technology that could potentially be used to monitor or even influence conditions on Earth. The discovery changed everything about humanity's place in the universe. The decision to classify the Red Dawn discoveries came from the highest levels of government. Within 48 hours of the initial discovery, representatives from the CIA, NSA, and Department of Defense arrived at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory to assess the situation and implement containment protocols. The cover-up operation was swift and comprehensive. All Red Dawn personnel were reassigned to different projects and required to sign new confidentiality agreements that carried criminal penalties for disclosure. The advanced surveillance equipment used by the mission was either destroyed or moved to classified facilities. Official NASA records were altered to remove any reference to the Red Dawn program. Public Mars observation programs were restructured to avoid the sensitive regions where activity had been detected. Future missions to Mars were secretly designed to gather intelligence while maintaining plausible deniability about their true objectives. Dr. Hartley was transferred to a desk job at NASA headquarters and effectively silenced. His attempts to continue Mars research were blocked, and he was warned that any unauthorized disclosure of classified information would result in prosecution under the Espionage Act. Several other team members left NASA entirely, rather than participate in the cover-up. The government's justification for the classification was based on national security concerns. Intelligence analysts argued that public knowledge of an advanced Martian civilization could cause mass panic, undermine social stability, and potentially lead to technological or military disadvantages if other nations accessed Martian technology first. A disinformation campaign was implemented to discredit any future claims about life on Mars. Scientists who reported anomalous observations were discredited, and their research was suppressed. Media coverage of Mars exploration was carefully managed to maintain the narrative that Mars was a dead planet. The cover-up was so effective that even most NASA employees were unaware of the Red Dawn discoveries. Only a small group of officials with the highest security clearances knew the truth about what had been found on Mars in 1986. Block 4. Hidden Evidence. Elena Rodriguez spent weeks cataloging the evidence that had been hidden in the vault. The documentation was extensive and undeniable. Thousands of photographs showing structured formations on Mars, spectroscopic data indicating artificial atmospheric modifications, and electromagnetic recordings that contained what appeared to be communication signals. The photographic evidence was particularly compelling. High-resolution images showed geometric patterns on the Martian surface that were clearly artificial in origin. Structures that appeared to be installations or facilities could be seen in multiple locations, often connected by what looked like transportation corridors. Time-lapse photography revealed changes in these structures over periods of days and weeks. Buildings appeared to be constructed, modified, or moved. The activity patterns suggested a level of technological capability that far exceeded anything on Earth in 1986. Spectroscopic analysis had detected artificial compounds in the Martian atmosphere that could only be produced by advanced industrial processes. The concentrations and distributions of these compounds indicated large-scale manufacturing and energy production activities across multiple regions of the planet. Most intriguing were the electromagnetic recordings. The signals detected from Mars contained mathematical patterns and information structures that suggested intelligent communication. Cryptographic analysis had identified what appeared to be data transmission protocols and even possible linguistic patterns. Rodriguez found evidence that the Red Dawn team had attempted to decode these signals and had achieved partial success. The communications appeared to contain technical information, coordinate systems, and what might have been scientific data. Some messages seemed to be directed toward Earth, suggesting that the Martian civilization was aware of human technological development. The final piece of evidence that convinced Rodriguez of the discovery's authenticity was the detailed tracking of Martian responses to Earth-based observation. Every time terrestrial telescopes focused on Mars, the activity patterns in the observed regions changed within hours. The correlation was too consistent to be coincidental. Block 5. The whistleblower, Dr. James Crawford, had been a young engineer on the Red Dawn team in 1986. Now, in his 70s and suffering from terminal cancer, he had contacted Rodriguez through encrypted channels, claiming to have additional evidence about the Mars discoveries that had never been turned over to the government. Crawford arranged to meet Rodriguez at a small diner outside Los Angeles, far from any NASA facilities. He appeared nervous and constantly checked his surroundings, behavior that Rodriguez initially attributed to paranoia, but later realized might have been justified caution. "I've kept this secret for 38 years, Crawford said, sliding a small storage device across the table. "But I'm dying, and the world deserves to know the truth. What we found on Mars wasn't just evidence of life. It was evidence of a civilization that's been watching us." The device contained Crawford's personal recordings and analysis from the Red Dawn mission, including data that he had hidden before the government seizure of all mission materials. His evidence included enhanced audio recordings of the electromagnetic signals that revealed even more complex communication patterns. Crawford explained that the Red Dawn team had not just discovered a Martian civilization, but had begun to understand its capabilities. The beings on Mars possessed technology that allowed them to monitor Earth's communications, track terrestrial space missions, and potentially influence Earth's atmospheric and magnetic fields. "They know everything about us," Crawford whispered, his eyes darting around the diner. "Our technology, our governments, our military capabilities. They've been studying us for decades, maybe centuries. The question isn't whether they exist, it's what they're planning to do about us." Most disturbing was Crawford's claim that the Martian civilization had been gradually increasing its activity levels since the 1980s. His analysis suggested that they were preparing for something, building up their technological infrastructure and expanding their operations across Mars. Block 6. Technological superiority. The evidence Crawford provided revealed the true extent of Martian technological capabilities. The civilization on Mars possessed atmospheric engineering technology that could modify planetary weather patterns, create artificial storms, and even influence magnetic field fluctuations. Their construction capabilities were equally impressive. Satellite imagery showed structures being built in weeks that would take Earth decades to complete. The construction methods appeared to involve some form of molecular assembly technology that could create complex structures from raw materials with incredible speed and precision. Most concerning was evidence of space-based technology. The Martians operated satellites and space platforms that were nearly invisible to Earth-based detection systems. These platforms appeared to be monitoring Earth's communications, tracking terrestrial satellites, and gathering intelligence about human technological development. Crawford's analysis suggested that Martian technology was at least several decades ahead of Earth's capabilities in most areas. Their energy systems appeared to be based on principles that human science had not yet discovered. Their materials technology allowed them to create substances with properties that defied current understanding of physics. The electromagnetic signals detected from Mars contained technical specifications that human engineers could barely comprehend. The data transmission rates and encryption methods were far beyond anything available on Earth. Some signals appeared to contain three-dimensional technical drawings of technologies that Earth science could not yet explain. Perhaps most unsettling was evidence that the Martians had been gradually revealing their capabilities over time. Activity levels had increased steadily since first contact in 1986, suggesting that they were either becoming less concerned about detection or were deliberately revealing themselves for unknown purposes. Rodriguez realized that she was looking at evidence of a technological disparity, that could represent either humanity's greatest opportunity or its greatest threat. The question was whether the Martian civilization was friendly, hostile, or simply indifferent to human existence. Block 7, Government Monitoring. Further investigation revealed that the government had not simply buried the Red Dawn discoveries, but had continued secret monitoring of Mars for decades. A series of classified programs had maintained surveillance of Martian activity, while developing contingency plans for various scenarios. These programs had operated under multiple code names and had been funded through black budgets that kept them hidden from congressional oversight. The monitoring had confirmed that Martian activity was not only continuing, but was accelerating at an alarming rate. Classified reports from the 1990s and 2000s documented the construction of massive new installations on Mars, the deployment of what appeared to be terraforming technology, and increasing levels of electromagnetic communication with unknown recipients. The scale of activity suggested preparation for major operations. Intelligence analysts had identified what they believed to be different factions within the Martian civilization, each with different technological capabilities and apparent objectives. Some factions appeared focused on planetary engineering, others on space-based operations, and still others on what looked like intelligence gathering about Earth. The government had also been monitoring Earth for evidence of Martian interference or infiltration. Classified reports documented investigations into technological anomalies, unexplained atmospheric phenomena, and possible cases of technological contamination that might indicate Martian intervention in human affairs. Most disturbing were reports of apparent communication attempts from Mars directed specifically at Earth governments. These messages had been intercepted by intelligence agencies, but had never been publicly acknowledged. The content of these communications remained heavily classified. Rodriguez found evidence that select government officials had been briefed on the Mars situation at the highest classification levels. These briefings had apparently influenced decisions about space exploration priorities, military technology development, and international cooperation agreements. Block 8. The Mars Connection. As Rodriguez delved deeper into the classified files, she discovered evidence that the Martian civilization had been influencing human technological development for decades. Advanced technologies that had appeared suddenly in human science often showed characteristics similar to Martian capabilities documented in the classified reports. Computer technology, satellite communications, and advanced materials had all experienced breakthrough developments that seemed to exceed the normal pace of human innovation. Intelligence analysts had identified possible connections between these breakthroughs and information contained in intercepted Martian communications. The files suggested that some human technological advances might have been based on deliberately leaked Martian technology. The timing and nature of certain discoveries implied that the Martians were selectively sharing information to accelerate human development in specific areas. This technology transfer appeared to be part of a larger strategy. The Martians seemed to be guiding human technological development toward compatibility with their own systems. Computer protocols, communication standards, and even scientific methodologies showed signs of Martian influence. Rodriguez found classified studies that analyzed the implications of this technological contamination. Government scientists had concluded that human civilization was becoming increasingly dependent on technologies that might have been designed by a non-human intelligence for unknown purposes. The evidence suggested that the Martians were not just observing human development, but were actively shaping it. The question was whether this intervention was intended to help humanity, control it, or prepare it for some other purpose. Most unsettling was the possibility that human science and technology were not entirely human in origin. The foundations of modern civilization might have been subtly influenced by an alien intelligence with its own agenda for humanity's future. Block 9. The Contact Protocols. Deep within the classified files, Rodriguez discovered evidence that the government had developed detailed protocols for potential contact with the Martian civilization. These protocols had been created by a joint committee of scientists, military officials, and intelligence analysts who had been planning for various contact scenarios since 1987. The protocols covered everything from communication procedures to military response options. They assumed that formal contact was not a matter of if, but when, and that the government needed to be prepared for any possible outcome of such contact. Communication protocols had been developed based on analysis of Martian electromagnetic signals. Government cryptographers had partially decoded Martian communication methods and had prepared response messages that could be transmitted using Earth-based technology. Military protocols assumed that the Martians possessed superior technology and that any hostile contact would require unconventional defensive strategies. Plans had been developed for protecting critical infrastructure, maintaining government continuity, and coordinating international responses to potential threats. Scientific protocols outlined procedures for analyzing Martian technology, managing information disclosure, and integrating new knowledge into human science while maintaining security. These protocols anticipated that contact might result in revolutionary advances in human capabilities. The files revealed that several test contacts had been attempted over the years, using deep space communication systems to transmit messages toward Mars. The responses to these messages had been carefully analyzed, but had never been publicly disclosed. Most significantly, the protocols included procedures for managing public disclosure of the Martian civilization's existence. These plans recognized that the knowledge would fundamentally change human society and required careful management to prevent social disruption. Block 10. The recent activity. Rodriguez's investigation revealed that Martian activity had increased dramatically in recent years, suggesting that some significant event was approaching. Satellite monitoring had detected massive construction projects, increased electromagnetic communications, and what appeared to be preparations for large-scale operations. The construction projects were unlike anything previously observed. Structures were being built that dwarfed previous Martian installations, suggesting projects that would require enormous energy and resources. The scale implied preparation for operations that would affect the entire planet. Communication activity had also increased exponentially. The volume and complexity of electromagnetic signals from Mars had grown to the point where human monitoring systems were struggling to process all the data. The communications appeared to involve coordination between multiple locations on Mars and possibly other destinations. Most concerning were observations of what appeared to be spacecraft construction. Structures had been detected that looked like large vessels or platforms being assembled in Martian orbit. The implications of Martian space-based capabilities were staggering. Intelligence analysts had concluded that the Martians were preparing for some form of major operation, but the nature and timing of this operation remained unknown. The activity patterns suggested that whatever they were planning would occur within the next few years. Rodriguez found evidence that government officials were increasingly concerned about the acceleration of Martian activity. Classified briefings to senior leadership had become more frequent, and contingency plans were being updated and expanded. The most recent intelligence reports suggested that the Martians might be preparing for open contact with humanity. The possibility that decades of secrecy might soon end had the government scrambling to prepare for scenarios they had hoped to avoid. Block 11. The Infiltration Theory. Among the most disturbing files Rodriguez discovered were intelligence reports suggesting that Martian infiltration of human society might have been occurring for decades. The reports documented investigations into individuals with suspicious technological knowledge, unexplained capabilities, or apparent advanced knowledge of scientific developments. These investigations had identified patterns that suggested some humans might have been in direct contact with Martian entities. The individuals in question often displayed knowledge or abilities that exceeded normal human capabilities, particularly in areas related to advanced technology or scientific prediction. Some cases involved scientists who had made breakthrough discoveries without apparent research foundation. Others involved individuals who had predicted technological developments with uncanny accuracy. Still others involved people who had displayed knowledge of classified information they should not have been able to access. The files contained psychological profiles and surveillance reports on dozens of individuals suspected of Martian contact. Some had been monitored for years without detection of any obvious alien influence. Others had displayed behaviors or knowledge that defied conventional explanation. Intelligence analysts had developed theories about how Martian infiltration might work. The most likely scenario involved selective contact with humans who possessed useful skills or knowledge, with information exchange occurring through methods that left no obvious traces. The infiltration theory suggested that the Martians had been preparing for open contact by establishing networks of human allies or agents. These individuals might serve as intermediaries during formal contact, or might help manage human society's response to revelation of the Martian presence. Rodriguez realized that she might be looking at evidence of a decades-long preparation process for the most significant event in human history: first contact with an alien civilization that had been hiding in plain sight. Block 12. The Terraforming Evidence. The classified files contained extensive documentation of Martian terraforming activities that had been observed over decades of secret monitoring. The evidence suggested that Mars was being systematically modified to support different forms of life, possibly in preparation for expanded colonization or other purposes. Atmospheric analysis had detected gradual changes in Mars' atmospheric composition that could not be explained by natural processes. The modifications appeared designed to create conditions suitable for life forms that might not be native to Mars, suggesting preparation for immigration from other worlds. Surface modifications were even more dramatic. Satellite imagery showed the construction of what appeared to be atmospheric processing stations, water management systems, and large-scale agricultural installations. The scale of these projects rivaled anything on Earth. Temperature regulation systems had been detected that seemed capable of creating localized climate zones across Mars. These systems could maintain different environmental conditions in different regions, allowing for multiple types of life to coexist on the same planet. Most intriguingly, some terraforming activities appeared to be creating conditions similar to those found on Earth. Atmospheric oxygen levels were being increased in certain regions, and water cycles were being established that mimicked terrestrial weather patterns. Intelligence analysts had concluded that the Martians were either preparing Mars for colonization by Earth-like life forms, or were modifying the planet to serve as a backup habitat for species that might face extinction on their home worlds. The timing and acceleration of terraforming activities correlated with the increase in Martian communications and construction projects. Everything suggested that Mars was being prepared for some major change that would occur within the next few years. Block 13. The Contact Decision. Rodriguez faced an impossible decision. The evidence she had uncovered proved beyond doubt that humanity was not alone in the solar system, and that an advanced alien civilization had been secretly influencing human development for decades. The question was whether to reveal this information to the world. The government had kept the Mars discoveries secret for nearly 4 decades, presumably to prevent social panic and maintain political stability. Public revelation of an advanced alien civilization would fundamentally change human society in unpredictable ways. However, the evidence suggested that the Martians were preparing for open contact within the next few years. If formal contact was inevitable, humanity deserved to be prepared rather than surprised. The shock of sudden revelation might be more damaging than gradual disclosure. Rodriguez consulted with colleagues who had security clearances, carefully probing their thoughts on extraterrestrial contact without revealing classified information. The responses were mixed, but generally suggested that the scientific community would welcome confirmation of alien life while acknowledging the social challenges it would create. She also researched historical cases of paradigm-shifting discoveries and their social impacts. The patterns suggested that humanity was remarkably adaptable when given time to process new information, but could react poorly to sudden revelations that challenged fundamental beliefs. The decision was complicated by the possibility that the Martians themselves might prefer gradual disclosure. Their apparent strategy of slowly revealing their capabilities suggested a preference for managed contact rather than sudden revelation. Rodriguez realized that her discovery might not be accidental. The timing of her assignment to the Mars Archive project, the ease with which she had accessed classified files, and even Crawford's decision to contact her might all be part of a larger plan to prepare humanity for contact. Block 14. The Leak. After weeks of internal struggle, Rodriguez decided that the truth about Mars needed to be revealed gradually and responsibly. She developed a plan to leak selected information through academic channels, while building support among scientists who could help manage public reaction to the discoveries. Her strategy involved releasing the information in stages, beginning with evidence that would be intriguing but not overwhelming. She would start with atmospheric anomalies and electromagnetic signals that suggested possible life on Mars, then gradually reveal more compelling evidence as public interest developed. Rodriguez began by submitting a research paper to the Journal of Astrobiology, titled Anomalous Atmospheric Patterns in Historical Mars Observation Data. The paper presented some of the less sensitive Red Dawn findings as newly discovered historical data that deserved scientific investigation. The paper was carefully written to suggest the possibility of current life on Mars without making explicit claims about alien civilization. It focused on atmospheric chemistry and electromagnetic phenomena that could have natural explanations while strongly implying that artificial causes were more likely. Within days of the paper's submission, Rodriguez received calls from government officials requesting meetings about her research. The speed of the response confirmed that her activities were being monitored and that the Mars information remained highly sensitive. The meetings were tense but civil. Government representatives explained the national security implications of Mars-related research and requested that Rodriguez limit her publications to information that had already been declassified. Rodriguez agreed to work within government guidelines while continuing to push for broader disclosure. She argued that scientific integrity required transparency about important discoveries and that the public had a right to know about significant findings related to life in the solar system. Block 15. Building Support. Rodriguez began building a network of scientists and researchers who could support responsible disclosure of the Mars discoveries. She carefully approached colleagues with relevant expertise, gradually revealing information to build a coalition of credible voices. Dr. Sarah Chen, a respected astrobiologist at Stanford, became one of her key allies after being shown selected evidence from the Red Dawn files. Chen agreed that the discoveries were too important to remain classified and offered to help develop disclosure strategies. Dr. Marcus Thompson, a former NASA administrator with high-level security clearances, provided crucial guidance on navigating government restrictions while pursuing scientific disclosure. His credibility and government connections made him an invaluable ally. The network grew to include atmospheric scientists, electromagnetic specialists, planetary geologists, and experts in extraterrestrial communication. Each member was carefully vetted and gradually informed about different aspects of the Mars evidence. The group developed a strategy for systematic disclosure that would minimize social disruption while maximizing scientific credibility. They planned to release evidence through peer-reviewed journals, scientific conferences, and educational programs that would prepare the public for eventual full disclosure. Government monitoring of their activities increased, but officials seemed to recognize that complete suppression was no longer possible. The strategy shifted toward managing the disclosure process rather than preventing it entirely. Rodriguez realized that her network was becoming part of a larger movement within the scientific community toward transparency about extraterrestrial life. Other researchers were independently discovering evidence of alien activity and beginning to push for disclosure. Block 16. The revelation accelerates. Events began moving faster than Rodriguez had anticipated. Other scientists, apparently inspired by her initial publications, began reporting their own discoveries of anomalous activity on Mars. The scientific momentum toward disclosure became difficult for the government to control. International space agencies began sharing data that corroborated the atmospheric and electromagnetic anomalies Rodriguez had reported. Scientists in other countries were apparently less constrained by classification restrictions and were freely publishing observations that supported the existence of active processes on Mars. Social media and scientific blogs began featuring discussions about the possibility of current life on Mars. The conversations were still speculative, but they were preparing public consciousness for more dramatic revelations. Rodriguez received an unexpected contact from Dr. Crawford, who informed her that he had decided to go public with his evidence regardless of personal consequences. His terminal illness had convinced him that protecting the truth was more important than protecting himself. Crawford's decision to reveal his story to a major investigative journalist accelerated the disclosure timeline dramatically. The journalist, Sarah Martinez of The Washington Post, had extensive experience with government secrecy and was prepared to publish a comprehensive exposé of the Mars cover-up. Government officials made final attempts to prevent publication by threatening legal action and invoking national security concerns. However, the combination of scientific evidence and whistleblower testimony had created a story too compelling and well-documented to suppress. The first major public revelation appeared in The Washington Post under the headline, "Former NASA engineer claims government has evidence of alien civilization on Mars." The story included Crawford's testimony, selected evidence from the Red Dawn files, and supporting analysis from Rodriguez's scientific network. Block 17. Global response. The Washington Post story triggered a global media frenzy unlike anything in recent history. News organizations around the world picked up the story, and social media platforms were flooded with discussions about the possibility of alien life on Mars. Government responses varied by country, but followed predictable patterns. Officials denied the validity of the claims while acknowledging that investigations into anomalous Mars observations were ongoing. The denials were careful and technical, avoiding outright dismissal of the evidence. Scientific institutions were divided in their responses. Some researchers dismissed the claims as speculative, while others called for immediate investigation and verification of the evidence. The division reflected both genuine scientific skepticism and pressure from funding agencies. Public reaction was surprisingly measured compared to what government officials had feared. While there was intense interest and discussion, there was no mass panic or social disruption. Most people seemed to view the possibility of alien life as fascinating rather than frightening. Religious leaders also responded more calmly than expected. Many incorporated the possibility of extraterrestrial life into existing theological frameworks, arguing that divine creation could include life on other worlds. International space agencies announced plans for new Mars missions designed to investigate the anomalous observations. The missions would use advanced technology to search for signs of current life and attempt to verify or debunk the claims about alien civilization. Stock markets experienced some volatility as investors tried to assess the implications of possible alien contact for various industries. However, the economic disruption was limited and temporary. Block 18. The confirmation. Within weeks of the initial revelations, additional evidence began emerging from multiple sources. Government documents were leaked that corroborated key aspects of Crawford's testimony. International scientists reported their own observations of anomalous activity on Mars. Most significantly, radio telescopes around the world began detecting structured electromagnetic signals from Mars that appeared to be artificial in origin. The signals were too complex and organized to be natural phenomena, providing strong support for claims about intelligent life on the planet. NASA was forced to acknowledge that it had been monitoring unexplained phenomena on Mars for decades. While officials stopped short of confirming the existence of alien civilization, they admitted that current observations could not be explained by known natural processes. The European Space Agency released high-resolution images of Mars that showed geometric structures on the planet's surface. While officials claimed the structures might have natural explanations, independent analysis suggested they were clearly artificial in origin. Other governments began releasing their own Mars-related data, apparently deciding that cooperation was preferable to continued secrecy. The collective evidence from multiple nations created an overwhelming case for the existence of active, intelligent life on Mars. International scientific cooperation reached unprecedented levels as researchers shared data and coordinated analysis of Mars observations. The collaboration represented humanity's first unified response to confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Government officials began preparing for the possibility of formal contact with the Martian civilization. Diplomatic protocols were developed, communication procedures were established, and contingency plans were activated for various contact scenarios. Block 19. The response from Mars. As Earth's disclosure of Martian observation became public knowledge, the activity levels on Mars changed dramatically. Electromagnetic communications increased exponentially, and new structures began appearing on the planet's surface at an accelerated pace. Radio telescopes detected what appeared to be deliberate communication attempts directed toward Earth. The signals contained mathematical progressions and information patterns that suggested intelligent attempts at establishing contact protocols. Some signals appeared to contain image data that, when decoded, showed detailed views of Earth taken from space. The images demonstrated that the Martians had sophisticated surveillance capabilities and had been monitoring Earth's technological development closely. Atmospheric modifications on Mars accelerated to the point where changes could be observed in real time by Earth-based telescopes. The modifications appeared to be preparing specific regions of Mars for increased activity or possibly for hosting visitors from other worlds. Most remarkably, some Martian communications contained what appeared to be technical specifications for advanced communication devices. Scientists who analyzed the data concluded that the Martians were providing instructions for building equipment that could enable more sophisticated two-way communication. Several research institutions began following these specifications to construct experimental communication devices. The technology was far advanced beyond current human capabilities, but was described in sufficient detail to be buildable with considerable effort and resources. The pattern suggested that the Martians were responding to Earth's disclosure by beginning formal contact procedures. Their apparent willingness to share advanced technology indicated either friendly intentions or confidence in their technological superiority. Government officials faced the unprecedented challenge of managing humanity's first confirmed contact with an alien civilization while maintaining social stability and international cooperation. Block 20. The technology transfer. The communication devices built according to Martian specifications proved functional beyond all expectations. When activated, they immediately received structured transmissions from Mars containing vast amounts of technical information and what appeared to be formal contact protocols. The technology transfer included advances in energy generation, materials, science, atmospheric engineering, and space propulsion that were centuries ahead of human capabilities. The information was presented in formats that human scientists could understand and implement with existing resources. Analysis of the transferred technology revealed that it was specifically designed to accelerate human technological development toward compatibility with Martian systems. The advances would enable humanity to achieve capabilities necessary for interplanetary cooperation and communication. Government officials realized that they were witnessing the beginning of a managed technological revolution that would fundamentally transform human civilization. The question was whether humanity could adapt to such rapid change without social disruption. International cooperation became essential as the technology transfer required resources and expertise from multiple nations. Traditional geopolitical divisions became irrelevant in the face of the need to respond coherently to alien contact. Some of the transferred technology had immediate practical applications that could solve major human problems. Advanced energy systems could eliminate dependence on fossil fuels. Atmospheric engineering could reverse climate change. Medical advances could eliminate many diseases. However, the technology also raised security concerns. The same systems that could benefit humanity could also be used as weapons. Government officials struggled with decisions about how to manage and distribute potentially dangerous capabilities. The Martians appeared to be aware of these concerns and included detailed information about safety protocols and ethical guidelines for using advanced technology. Their apparent concern for human welfare suggested benevolent intentions. Block 21. The cultural exchange. As technical communication with Mars developed, the exchanges began to include cultural and philosophical information that revealed the nature of Martian civilization. The revelations challenged many human assumptions about intelligence, society, and the purpose of technological development. Martian civilization appeared to be far older than human civilization, with a history spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Their society had evolved through multiple phases of technological and social development, each building on the achievements of previous eras. The Martians were not a single species, but a cooperative civilization comprising multiple intelligent life forms that had evolved on different worlds. Mars served as a meeting point and research center for this interplanetary community. Their society was organized around scientific exploration and technological development rather than competition for resources. Advanced technology had eliminated scarcity, allowing focus on knowledge acquisition and cultural development. The Martians explained that they had been observing human development for centuries, waiting for humanity to reach a level of technological and social development that would make contact beneficial rather than disruptive. They revealed that humanity was not unique in the galaxy, but was one of many emerging civilizations being monitored and guided by more advanced species. The process of gradual contact and technology transfer was a standard procedure for integrating new species into the galactic community. However, they also explained that not all emerging civilizations successfully made the transition to interplanetary status. Many destroyed themselves through warfare, environmental destruction, or inability to adapt to advanced technology. The implication was clear. Humanity was being given an opportunity to join a galactic civilization, but success was not guaranteed. The outcome would depend on how well human society could adapt to revolutionary change. Block 22. The choice. Humanity faced the most significant decision in its history. The Martians had offered membership in a galactic civilization that would provide access to advanced technology, scientific knowledge, and cultural exchange with other intelligent species. However, acceptance would require fundamental changes in human society and governance. The offer came with conditions. Humanity would need to eliminate warfare establish sustainable relationships with planetary environments, and develop social systems based on cooperation rather than competition. These changes would need to be implemented within a specified time frame. International leaders struggled with the implications of the Martian offer. The benefits were obvious: unlimited energy, advanced medical technology, space travel capabilities, and protection from cosmic threats. However, the social changes required would challenge existing power structures and economic systems. Public opinion was divided. Many people were excited about the possibility of joining a galactic civilization and accessing advanced technology. Others were concerned about maintaining human autonomy and cultural identity. Religious and philosophical debates emerged about the implications of contact with advanced alien civilizations. Some viewed it as divine providence, others as a test of human worthiness, and still others as a threat to human spiritual development. Scientists and technologists were generally enthusiastic about the opportunity to advance human knowledge and capabilities. However, they also recognized the challenges of integrating alien technology without losing human scientific traditions. Government officials faced the unprecedented challenge of making decisions that would affect the entire future of human civilization. Traditional democratic processes seemed inadequate for choices of such magnitude and permanence. The Martians indicated that humanity had a limited time to make its decision and demonstrate its commitment to the required changes. The window of opportunity would not remain open indefinitely. Block 23. The transformation. Rodriguez found herself at the center of humanity's most important decision. As one of the first people to understand the full scope of Martian contact, she had become an informal advisor to government officials and international organizations dealing with the alien offer. The evidence she had uncovered in the NASA vault had triggered a chain of events that led to the most significant transformation in human history. The secret that had been hidden for decades was now reshaping civilization itself. International cooperation reached unprecedented levels as humanity worked to meet the conditions for galactic membership. Ancient conflicts were set aside in favor of collective effort toward common goals. Environmental restoration projects were implemented using Martian technology. Social systems were reorganized to promote cooperation over competition. The transformation was not without challenges. Economic disruption occurred as traditional industries became obsolete. Political systems struggled to adapt to global governance requirements. Cultural conflicts emerged between traditional values and new realities. However, the benefits of Martian technology became evident quickly. Clean energy systems eliminated pollution and resource scarcity. Medical advances cured diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Agricultural improvements ended hunger and malnutrition globally. Space exploration capabilities allowed humanity to establish permanent research stations on Mars and begin exploring other worlds in the solar system. The universe that had seemed empty and hostile now revealed itself to be filled with life and intelligence. Communication with other galactic civilizations expanded human knowledge exponentially. Scientific understanding advanced more in months than it had in previous centuries. Cultural exchange introduced new forms of art, philosophy, and social organization. Most importantly, humanity began to understand its place in a larger cosmic community. The isolation and existential anxiety that had characterized human consciousness for millennia gave way to a sense of belonging and purpose within a vast network of intelligent life. Rodriguez reflected on the journey from her discovery of classified files to humanity's transformation into a galactic species. The secret that NASA had hidden for nearly 40 years had become the key to humanity's greatest adventure. The Martians had been patient teachers, guiding humanity toward a future that few could have imagined. What had begun as a terrifying discovery of alien surveillance had evolved into humanity's graduation into cosmic citizenship. As she watched the first human diplomatic mission depart for Mars, Rodriguez realized that the greatest secrets were often not hidden to harm humanity, but to protect it until the time was right for revelation. The truth about Mars had been worth the wait. The transformation continued as humanity adapted to its new role in the galaxy. The species that had once fought over resources and territory now worked together to explore the universe and contribute to the collective knowledge of countless civilizations. In the end, the discovery that humanity was not alone had led to the realization that it never had been. The universe was filled with intelligence, wisdom, and cooperation, and humanity had finally become ready to join the community of cosmic civilizations. Final word. Count. 7,500 words.